All right, welcome everyone. Today is October 9th. I am so happy that in my neck of the woods, the heat wave has stopped. I know that there are other kind of natural disasters that are happening over on the East Coast. We do have some employees over in that Florida area. Our thoughts and wishes going out to the families and the residents over there. Uh, hopefully everything we were able to get through everything safe. If there's anything that we can ever do, always reach out to us, okay? But today we are here to talk about what does college really cost, right? The reason I bring this up is that as I talk to a lot of families through our financial aid consultations, we do have a lot of kind of like people don't know what college costs, right? They have a lot of misconceptions about what the actual cost of colleges are. And so I do want to kind of talk about what colleges cost, what colleges say about their costs, right? I'm also going to talk a little bit about kind of like what not to trust when you are kind of looking at what colleges cost. And then we'll also talk a little bit about how we can help. Okay. So without further ado, let's kind of go straight into it. So, as far as our agenda, right? So, we're going to talk a little bit about who we are. We're going to talk about understanding the cost of college, the different types of schools, right? What are the difference? Why are they different, right? And then we will also talk about how we can help you. Okay. So, first off, who are we, right? We're here every single week, right? We've been here. We've been doing this for how long now? It's been a while. I don't even remember exactly how many weeks it is, but we're here every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. We want to make sure that you guys have the most up-to-date information on financial aid. For the last kind of like couple years, there's been a lot of news about financial aid. Normally, it's a very boring topic, right? But with all the changes with the FAFSA form, right? Early action, early decision, things changing, there's being delays, right? There's been a lot of things to talk about, which is kind of nice, but then at the same time, it also kind of messes up the procedures that in a normal year families would go through. Okay. Now, the one thing that we do ask for families is that they actually engage with us. Okay. So if you're one of our coaching families that is going through the college admissions process with us, reach out in Discord. If you're in our Facebook group, reach out through Facebook Messenger, right? Reach out through email, whatever way you can, reach out by text. We are monitoring all those different channels. We will make sure to get back to you and answer your questions. Okay. Now, I have been doing this for the last 15 years, right? And I've been able to save my family's millions of dollars. Okay. One of the biggest things that I want to do as part of Financial Aid Secrets is make sure that college becomes more affordable and that not every family has to get into massive amounts of debt in order to send their kids to college. Okay. But with that intro being done now, right? Let's go on to kind of understanding the cost a little bit. But before we do, right, I know that everyone here is worried about the rising costs of college. Okay. There's a lot of people out there, right? That again don't know how much college costs, right? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But there has been a rise in everything, tuition, right? Textbooks, housing, other educational costs, even the electronics that you need in order to like kind of do college work have gone up, right? College expenses and the way that they have increased have outpaced inflation, making it impossible and sometimes very difficult for students to pursue their educational goals, right? One of the pieces I always talk about is that financial aid is like a decade behind. Okay. And why I say that is when you look at kind of like the different limits that they have on, incomes or this or that, it seems like the federal government and financial aid is not really understanding the modern world that we live in and how expensive it is, right? But there's also kind of like a disconnect between people and understanding that there is money to be had. Okay. So just last year, there was $1.77 trillion in student debt across the nation. Okay. My goal is to hopefully make that number grow slower, right? But, right, for some families, right, the only hope is to take loans and hope that one day they can be repaid. Okay. Now, student debt is the third largest debt category in America behind auto loans and mortgages. Okay. So hopefully today, after understanding how much colleges cost, right, what to look for, you can be a little bit more prepared for the costs that lie ahead. Okay. So But before we go a little bit further, there is one thing that I want to share with you guys, right? A quick word from our sponsors, College Admission Secrets. Okay. Now, all this past summer, we were doing college application intensives, working in person and online with families to make sure that their students were able to get through the process. The summer is over now, right? Unfortunately, we have no more college application intensives. But what we do have for you is a college essay service for the class of 2025. So if your student needs help on their PIQs for the UC system, or personal statement, or supplemental essays for a certain college, right? This is perfect for you. We provide asynchronous essay review and feedback. We also record a video for your students so that they are able to kind of have some interaction with the kind of editors and coaches that are helping them, right? And we're going to help them stay on track to reach their essay goals, okay? So if you are interested, please text essay to 415-938-8721, okay? Now, let's get back to the training. So let's talk about the basics of college costs, okay? So I'm based in California. A lot of our families are in California. So we're going to talk about the CSUs. We're going to talk about the UCs. We're also going to talk about private schools. We're also going to talk about out-of-state schools. And I'm going to talk about something special that our Western states have called the Western Undergraduate Exchange, okay? Now, when I'm talking about college costs, I'm talking about more than just the tuition, okay? Because you cannot attend college by just paying tuition, okay? There's other fees. There's room and board. There's additional expenses, right? Textbooks, supplies, transportation, personal kind of other kind of personal items, right? So when I'm talking about the cost of going to college, because I know that there's going to be some parents out there, it's like, no, that school doesn't cost that much. It actually costs this much. I'm talking about everything put together. I am talking about the cost of attendance, okay? So the commonly used terms, there's two different ones when we're talking about college expenses. There's the cost of attendance, which is the average kind of expenses that a family can expect to kind of spend when going to a certain college. And then there's tuition. And that's basically the cost billed by school for academic expenses. Okay. So those are the two different things we're going to talk about today. But for me, I'm interested in both the tuition cost and also the cost of attendance. Okay. Now, we will start in California with the schools that are the most affordable. Okay. We're going to start with the CSUs, right? The Cal State universities. Okay. Now, there's a lot of people that actually don't know this, but there are 23 Cal State campuses in California. Okay. Now, the most well-known ones might be like Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, right? San Diego State, San Francisco State, San Jose State, right? But there are actually 23. Okay. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out today versus kind of like other days is how much the increase was from last year. Last year, okay, I have to do some math, but this year the in-state tuition, right? So if you're a California resident, was $7,007. That is a $222 increase versus last year. Okay. The out-of-state tuition this year is $18,887, also a $222 increase from last year. Okay. The total cost of attendance for a student going in state, right? So that includes the tuition, housing, all of these different things, is roughly around $32,000 for an in-state student. If you're coming from out of state, it's about $43,000. Okay. Now, the UCs or the University of California system, think UC Berkeley, right? This is the clock tower at UC Berkeley, right? The tuition is $14,934. That is an increase of $708 versus last year, right? Do you see how there is such a large increase going over the kind of like year by year? Okay. For out of state tuition, it's gotten even crazier, right? It used to be 3 times. It's actually way more than 3 times now. It's actually $50,328. They're basically saying if you want to come to the UCs, you got to pay up, right? That's an increase of $6,348 versus last year. So if your student just graduated and they're from out of state and they graduated last year, good for you because there's a $6,000 increase this year. Okay. So the total cost of attendance for an in-state California resident is $42,000, right? For out-of-state students, it's actually $75,000. Okay. Now, here's what I want to kind of like bring up here. When you look at the stats for California schools, They tell you the average amount of aid at the public universities in California is $8,640. They're basically saying, hey, this is how much our families are getting in financial aid. I want you to keep this kind of in your mind, right? $8,640. That's what they say that families are saving. Okay. Now, let's talk about private schools, right? Here we have USC, right? Or one of the buildings at USC at least, right? I just wanted because and the reason why I bring up USC is because it is actually the most expensive school in the United States. So congratulations, USC. Okay. Now a lot of families are probably like, yeah, I know. USC costs a bundle, right? Now, here is something that people don't understand though, right? One of the things that families do not understand is that private schools do not discriminate based on where you are from. It is that high price tag, and it doesn't matter if you're from that state or from a different state or from a different country. The price is all the same. Okay. Now the tuition is anywhere between $50,000 and $65,000 per year. The total cost of attendance is between $75,000 and $90,000 a year. Now, there are outliers. The outliers are schools like USC. To go to USC, it is $94,000 a year. Okay. Just keep that in mind, right? Now, I feel like USC prides themselves on being the most expensive, right? They want to be like, we are the most expensive, right? And they haven't really lost that in the last several years, right? But again, enough bashing on USC. But at the private schools, right? The average amount of age just across the board for the private schools, right? And if you're kind of confused at what a private school is and what a kind of public school is, think in California, the UCs and CSUs, those are our state schools. Schools like Stanford, Pepperdine, University of San Francisco, Chapman, right? The Claremont colleges, right? University of the Redlands, right? These are private schools. They say that the average amount of aid at private institutions is $24,440. That's what they say they give in financial aid. Okay. Now let's talk about out-of-state public schools. A very popular school for California students has been University of Washington, and I think it is because of this picture on the right, okay? This picture on the right is like a picture of their quad during cherry blossom season. It is obviously beautiful, but you need to understand what the costs are, okay? So the out-of-state public schools, when I'm talking about out-of-state public, I am referring to public schools that are not in your home state, okay? Think of your home state as the place you reside and pay taxes to. So wherever you pay state taxes, that is going to be your home state, right? Now, for out of state public schools, normally what happens is that it is 300% or three times the in-state tuition fees. So if a school is $15,000 for in-state tuition, it's $45,000 for out-of-state students, right? If it's $10,000, it's $30,000, so on and so forth. But after everything is said and done, the total cost of attendance is $65,000 to $75,000. Okay. The average amount of aid at public universities for out-of-state students, it's not even published. Okay. The reason why it's not published is that these schools have no obligation to give you anything at all. Okay. And because of the lack of kind of data, right? Because they're not giving you anything, we'll just say that it's zero. Okay. So if you are thinking about going to an out-of-state public school, right, you have to think that it's full price. Now, a lot of families out there might be thinking, I know someone. They went to University of Arizona, or they went to University of Hawaii, or they went here or there, and they got a bunch of money to go, right? Yes, there are exceptions, but the general rule of thumb is that if you're going to an out-of-state public school, you have to think that it's full price. Okay. Now, something that will help us a little bit is what I talked about at the beginning, the Western Undergraduate Exchange, right? Now, other kind of groupings of states also have these, but this is one that is very specific to where I am on the West Coast, okay? Now, this is a special program where states have elected to band together to allow students to go to the other states' respective state colleges for a discounted price, okay? So I told you guys before, normally it would be kind of like a 300% of the in-state tuition. So if it's 15,000, then, or let's make the numbers easier. Let's say it's 10,000, and normally it would be 30,000. But what they actually do for the Western Undergraduate Exchange is say, hey, we're going to cap the rates if you're from a qualifying state to 150%. So instead of being 10,000 or 10 or instead of being like $10,000 for in-state and $30,000 for out-of-state, it would be $10,000 for in-state and $15,000 for an out-of-state student from a qualifying state. Okay. Now, a lot of people here might be like, oh, well, that's great. But there are some caveats here. Okay. And the caveats are this. Okay. So there are major restrictions. Okay. So I'll just kind of think of some schools that I can think of off the top of my head. One of those schools is ASU. Okay. ASU is a school that is part of the Western Undergraduate Exchange. Okay. Now, if you actually look at the majors that are allowed, it's a very, very, very small number of majors, right? And the more popular majors are not included in that list. Okay. Oh, you know what? It's actually University of Arizona. But ASU is also restrictive, right? But University of Arizona, if you actually go to University of Arizona, there's like one or two majors that you can apply as and graduate with that will get you that Western Undergraduate Exchange discount. And one of them is like mining engineering, right? So if you're not specifically going into that, it's going to be the same situation that I talked about above, where you're going to pay 300% or 300% or three times the in-state tuition. Okay. So with the discount, the tuition at the WUI schools ranges anywhere between 10 and 18,000. So your total cost of attendance is going to be somewhere in the $35,000 to $45,000 range. Okay. So these are the rough numbers. Okay. Obviously, depending on your student spending habits, this and that, you might be spending more, you might be spending less. Okay. So I wanted to make sure that we looked over those things, right? And I wanted to make sure that everyone understood that the costs are very different depending on where you're going, where you're from. Okay. Again, the reason I bring this up is because I've seen a lot of people and like, yeah, so how much does a private school cost? Like 50 grand? And I'm like, no, not even close, right? It's closer to around 90, right? And they're shocked, right? Again, college kind of expenses, they have risen very quickly, right? And for families that, started a student off during the COVID period, there was actually a period in time where colleges did not raise their prices because of obviously, COVID. It was difficult for everybody, right? But after kind of like 2023, they started to kind of bring it back up to what it should have been. So in 2023, there was a huge jump. This year, there's another huge jump, right? Next year, there's going to be another huge jump, right? Especially for the private schools, they're not barred by anyone about like how much they can raise their kind of tuition costs, right? For the UCs, there is kind of like a 1 or 2% per year situation, but I think they just readjusted their out-of-state kind of tuition, and that's why there was a huge jump this year. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, talking about timeline, right? The reason I bring up timeline this year is because the FAFSA is delayed again this year. Okay, so I want to make sure that everyone understands what's happening this year, especially if you have a senior, and I do see a bunch of senior families here, right? So if you're currently a senior right now, right, there's a lot of schools that are saying, well, you can apply early decision or early action, but we can't really do anything for you because the FAFSA is not going to be done yet. So we can't get you a financial aid decision by the time we get your kind of decision back, right? So in a normal year, everything would be done by basically the end of the year. Okay. So you would turn in, your FAFSA, you turn in your CSS profile, IDoc, additional forms, everything would be already turned in, right? But this year, because of the delays, there's a lot of schools that are saying that their deadline is somewhere like later in December or January or even by February is where I've seen it actually be the most as far as the deadline. Okay. Now, one thing that I did talk about last week is that if you are applying early action or early decision, there might be specific things that you need to do for your particular school in order for them to give you a preliminary award. But remember, that preliminary award means nothing because until they get the FAFSA, nothing is finalized. Okay. So keep that in mind there, right? Now, one of the pieces that I did want to talk about, I talked about this last week too, but it fits so well in here. Okay. So one of the things that we had talked about earlier was that at different types of school, they say that we save like this type of money and that type of money. Okay. For the UCs and CSUs, they said that the average student saves $8,800, something like that. right? At the private schools, they told us, oh, you're gonna say like we save or like we give financial aid and the average is around $24,000. Okay. But here is the thing that you need to keep in mind. That $24,000 might be a $24,000 loan. Okay. A lot of people are like, oh, yeah, like they're gonna give me $24,000. They go on this website, they go on that website, they look at the school, they see that 90% of students are receiving financial aid. But when they never break it down to you by saying how many people receive free money and how many people receive loans. Okay. So 90% of students, well, 89% of them might get loans and then 1% might get free money. But in our program, the thing that we care about is free money. Okay. That's what I try to maximize for you guys so that your overall cost of attendance is lower, right? Now, loans are always going to be part of the process. And as I go through some success stories that we had from last year, you'll see that in every situation, loans were part of the process. But, right, you will see that the kind of free money that we got far outweighed the loans that they got. Okay. And then the loans, again, they're optional. But for a student, right, sometimes it makes sense to take it. For parents, we've talked about this before in our different loan presentations, right? But at 8.08% and with the interest rate going to be going up for the next year, right? I don't know if it makes sense to borrow that large amount of money at 8%, right? I do tell parents you should shop around, see what other options you have to take out educational loans. Okay. But going back to the piece about kind of like the colleges say, oh, 88% of our students get financial aid and they save this much. You can't trust that, right? The other thing that you cannot trust is the net price calculator. Okay. One of the biggest mistakes that families make is using the net price calculator and then saying basically, oh, okay, so we're gonna get about $25,000 in aid, so we're going to a UC, so it's gonna be about $17,000 a year, right? And then when you get your first bill, right, and it's like 22,000, right, it doesn't make sense to you, right? So it's all about understanding exactly what you're going to get. But the net price calculators, you need to understand they only ask several questions. Even the more detailed net price calculators, they overestimate what they're going to give you because at the end of the day, the net price calculators are just a gimmick to lull you in to apply to that school. Okay. Now, there might be people out there that disagree with me, right? But in my experience over the past decade and a half, that's what I have seen. On the net price calculator, it'll tell you, oh, you're going to a private school. It costs $85,000. You're going to be able to save $60,000, right? And then basically some of them are becoming a little bit more honest because they'll tell you how much is a loan and how much is free money. But most of the times they don't. And when they don't, you get into this false sense of like, oh, I can go to this school and only pay $25,000 a year, but they're not calculating in the loans, right? Loans to a school are technically financial aid. So if a school says, you know what, we're going to give you full 100% financial aid, and I'm going to give you an $85,000 loan, right? Then for them, they have met 100% of your need. Okay. So just understand that. Okay. So instead of using these net price calculators, instead of trying to kind of like this, like figure out like what you're going to save, I actually ask you to come and talk to us, sign up for a consultation. It is free, right? I don't charge for my consultation. I will tell you if I can help you or not. And then if I can, then I'll tell you about our services. If I can't, I'll send you on your way with some advice. Okay. But the one thing that I say to all my families is this, right? If it is your first year and your student is a senior or they're going to be a senior next year, so they're a junior right now, right? Why take the risk of messing things up the first year, which is the most important year, right? Instead, have someone that is an expert do it for you. If we do it for you and we're not able to save you money, you don't need to worry. There's a money back guarantee in place in writing in our contract. Okay. And then you just get your money back. And at least someone that really knows what they're doing tried, and it's not possible for your family. Okay. All right. So we always say, don't do this on your own. Please reach out to us, learn from us, right? We every week we have, new topics, or we try to have new topics, right? Because I told you financial aid is a boring topic. So I try to make it as interesting as possible, right? And most of all, right, talk to us, right? The consultation is free. I'm going to have a QR code at the end. I'm also going to have a link at the end if you guys want to sign up for a consultation. Okay. Now, I just want to go over some success stories with you guys because I feel like, like seeing kind of like other families in similar situations might help families understand exactly what's going on and how I might be able to help. Okay. So let's kind of talk about some of our success stories. So last year, I had a family go to Penn. Okay. And the total cost of attendance at that school is $92,288. The family size was five, right? The family income was around $326,000. Their assets was around $1.4 million, right? And what I was able to get them per year was $44,000. Okay. Now, like I told you, I'm being totally like transparent here. I also part of the package was $5,500 in loans, right? So I was able to save them just under $50,000. So their cost of attendance to go to Penn was $42,488 or $788, right? But if we actually think about it, that's cheaper than going to a UC for this family because at a UC, they were going to be paying full price. Okay. Now, the difference is very marginal in this situation, but let's talk about other schools. I had another family. They went to UCLA, right? The total cost of attendance last year was $42,127. Family of four, $193,000. Family assets, 700K plus. Okay. I was able to get them $18,000. Again, $5,500 in loans, right? And so their total cost of attendance for the year was $17,627. Okay. Now, you divide that by three, so they were basically paying $6,000 a quarter at UCLA, right? $6,000 a quarter is much better than $14,000 a quarter. Okay. So again, major savings here, right? And then finally, I was able to, help a family. Their student was going to Pomona College, right? Part of the Claremont colleges where I actually went, right? The total cost of attendance there is $89,414. Family of four, family income of $225,000, family assets just over 600, and I was able to get them $57,500, right? I was also able to get them the loans, right? The reason why I bring up these loans part is because, again, I want to be transparent. And part of these loans are zero interest. Part of the loans is also like, is kind of like interest bearing, right? And so, like, the interest starts to accrue as soon as you take it, right? And the loans can increase, right? A lot of our families kind of ask me, hey, you know what? Like, I want my student to also have a little responsibility here. So, can we take out the loans? Yeah, the loans are mostly always going to be available for your family. So for this family in particular, they ended up going to Pomona, a private school that cost almost $90,000 a year for $26,414. This school is on a semester system. They pay $13,000 a semester instead of $45,000 a semester. Okay. So that is a very large increase in the aid. Okay. Now, if you are interested in talking to me, right, I'm going to go ahead and put the link into the chat, right? There's also a QR code here, right? If you guys are more, if you guys want to take a screenshot and do that, right? If you're also interested in the college essay service, you can text us at, 415-938-8721. You just tell us essay and our kind of team will make sure that you, get the information you need to get the help that you guys need. Okay. But thank you guys for being here today, right? I do want to open it up for Q&A so that, I can answer any questions that you guys have about the presentation today. And then, if you guys, have other things to do or dinner to go eat, I kind of, I'm going to let you guys go and do that as well. Okay. So I'll stick around, make sure to answer any questions that we have. And then, if not, I will see you guys next week. Okay. All right. Great. All right, so we'll open up for Q&A now, right? You can put it in the chat, in the Q&A, wherever you guys feel comfortable, and I will make sure to answer your questions. Okay, so we have a question in the Q&A here, and this is exactly what I had talked about before, right? So a family said, I have my friend's family or my friend's kid went to, a college at an out-of-state school. They're from California, right? But he got a bunch of money to go there, right? Yes, those things do happen. I'm not saying that they don't happen, but you can't expect them to happen, right? Now, the only thing that I will say is this. For California students that have above a 3.5, ASU like gives you an automatic $50,000 over the course of 4 years. So they give you $12,500 per year to go to their school. But you have to remember what the original cost is going to be. So it's around $70,000 to go to ASU. If you think about the tuition and you think about living costs and so on and so forth, it's around 70 grand, right? If you're getting $12,500 off, let's just call it 13,000, you're still paying $57,000 a year, which is $12,000 more than the most expensive UC would be, right? So over the course of 4 years, that's an extra $50,000 that you're paying to go to an out-of-state public school that is basically like our CSUs, right? So it's something to think about in that way, okay? We have another question that says, why is FAFSA so important? Okay, so FAFSA is important because a lot of people, and we actually talked about some of the rumors and things that are going on with kind of like financial aid last week. One of the things that people kind of misunderstand about the whole process is that FAFSA is just to get kind of like loans. That is not the case. FAFSA is literally the kind of like linchpin, the keystone, the kind of like everything to financial aid. If you don't turn in the FAFSA, nothing will be processed. The FAFSA is the gateway form, and it is also in this kind of current year, the last form that is needed in order to finalize your financial aid and for your kid to get anything. Okay. If you want to get $1 from financial aid, right? Doesn't matter if it's $1 or $100,000, you have to turn in your FAFSA. That is why it is so important. It is the first step, the last step, probably, and for some schools, the only step that you really need to do in order to get money for college. Okay. It says the first package you get, will it be carried out in the next years or each year a new calculation will be done? Okay, great question, right? So the financial aid process is like your taxes, okay? Every single year you have to refile, right? Now, the reason you might be thinking, well, like, my family situation is not going to change over the next 4 years when my kid is in college. But there are a lot of families where the situation does change. Maybe a parent loses a job. Maybe the parent wins the lottery, right? Whatever side it's on, whether it's the positive side or the negative side, if there is something that changes, they need to recalculate how much money they can give you. Okay. So obviously the answer is yes, you do need to file it every single year. Okay. All right. So those were great questions. Okay. I'm here to answer, right? Again, QR code on the screen, right? We also have the link in the chat, right? I don't, if you are a senior right now and you haven't talked to anyone about financial aid, you're way behind right now. Okay. So sign up for the first available spot, right? I don't care if you need to miss work, parents, right? Or if you need to miss this, something or another, you need to have this meeting because if you don't, you could possibly be missing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of 4 years. Okay. We have another question here. It says, what was the number to text for SAP IQ review? It is here at the bottom of the screen. Am I still sharing? I think I am, right? It is 415-938-8721. You can text SA. Okay. Now, I know that we're kind of going through a little bit of a system change, so we might have an issue. So the more safer way would be to email us at support@collegeadmissionsecrets.com. I put that in the chat there. Okay. So if you want to email us and be like, hey, yeah, I want some help with, my kids' essays, and then we'll get you the information that you need. We might be having a little issue with our texting. We might be able to receive it, but not respond. Okay. But that should be solved in the next day or two. So not a big issue. Okay. All right. So doesn't seem like there's any more questions. So I'm going to leave the screen on just so that you guys can, grab your other phone so you can take a picture of the QR code. I will also, again, put in the link into the chat, right? But if you guys do have any additional questions, make sure, reach out to us, Discord, email, Facebook Messenger, whatever way it is so that we can make sure to get you guys the information you need. Okay? So I'm just going to leave this on. Everyone, I hope you guys have a great night. And if there's anything else I can do for you or any topics I can go over for you, just make sure to reach out to us so that we can make sure to kind of do those things, okay? All right. So everyone have a great night, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.